to be here at the disco. Let me tell you what happened to me the other day. At the Piggly, standing in line, feeling nervous, waiting my time. Then a large can fell from my coat, so I shouted before they took note. Who threw that ham at me? Who threw that ham at me? Hey, please, did anyone see? Who threw that ham at me?
I want to go home now, you idiots.
Okay, disco garbage can. Yeah, flip your lid. Disco garbage can. Flip your lid. Yeah, get down. Alright. Twirl. Everyone twirl. So I turned and walked away. Like later on I would go and pay. Then it happened when I stopped. A frozen bird fell with a plop.
My family is waiting for me.
A frozen bird fell with a plop. Who flung this turkey at me? Who flung this turkey at me? What's going on? Didn't you see? Someone threw a turkey at me. Yeah, disco garbage can, everybody. Yeah, flip your lid. Disco garbage can. Yeah, do the disco garbage can. Who threw that ham at me? Who threw that ham at me? Hey, didn't anybody see? Who threw that ham at me? Who threw that ham at me? Disco garbage can, everybody. Yeah, get down. Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, go for it, baby. Yeah, that's really great. Well, everybody, I've made my scene here at the disco tonight, so I'm going on to the next disco. Hopefully, I'll see you there.
Hey guys, Dave Darren here. I put out this event invite at the very, very last minute. My dog's barking outside like crazy because he hears me talking. He thinks, what's going on with Daddy in the house here? So my wife's calling him in. So I wasn't going to do a show tonight, but here I am. Last minute, I set up the invite last minute. So I don't expect a whole lot of people to be joining tonight, and that's okay because most people didn't get the invite, and probably most people consider me irrelevant anyway. So nevertheless, some of you might join me later on. Some of you may play this later. Top story, of course, now is Trump wanting to open up the government or the economy, the country, on the day after Easter, all right? So Easter Sunday, Monday, I guess he wants it to be hopping, all right? So you know what? If you really think about it, the guy is a businessman, right? So what does a businessman do? They analyze statistics, they analyze data, they figure out what's going on. Now, I don't believe that the guy is the brightest bulb in the pack of bulbs that you buy from the store at Christmas time, the 50 light string with 50 bulbs. I don't believe he's the brightest bulb, but I do believe he surrounds himself with some of the brightest people. So even though he may not think as educated as we would hope he would be, and I think the guy is rather bright. I do think he listens to people. Do I think he's the brightest person or listen to every single person? No, but think about it this way. I ran some statistics today, and I'll pull them up here, and hopefully I can drag it over. I'm not sure if I can or not. Okay, looks like I can. Okay. So I ran these statistics just to give you an idea of what my mindset is and my thinking process is. Now maybe I can make this bigger so you guys can see it a little bit bigger on the screen. Let me see if I can do that. Like I said, I wish I prepared better for this, but here we go. This is the best I can do right now. Trying to drag it up bigger. Okay, I think all you guys can see it. So this is exactly what I said. I did a little bit of politics regarding bringing the United States economy back and the people back to work. And I am attaching New York State and New Jersey statistics. I can show them to you because I do have them as a graph. But I'll just give you the numbers, and I'll give you the logic, and I'll give you the mathematics behind it, okay? So New Jersey statistics. 285 deaths in New Jersey, 62 deaths in New Jersey. Total deaths is, the total United States death is 942. So here's what I did. I took, if you do the math, considering the U.S. population to be 330 million, where 942 people have died, okay? So this is the population. You can Google it. You see United States population is 327 million. I rounded off to 330 million, all right? So 330 million people live in the United States. Out of that, 942 to date have died. And I ran these statistics. I don't know if they're fresh from this morning, this afternoon, but they're fresh as of today. And I give you guys the link to where I go to find out all these statistics, okay? Now, if you take that statistic, if you take the 330 million and 942 have died, you can just see that it's a very small amount, right? But if you do the mathematics on it, it is 0.0003% of the population in the entire country has died, all right? Now let's take the worst case scenario, the state that has the worst situation right now. We always see Cuomo talking about it. New York State, okay? I'm not taking New York City and isolating it. I'm taking the entire population of New York State because I don't think I have the statistics for New York City specifically. I could probably hunt around, look around, and figure it out, or listen to Cuomo talk and give the statistics. But their entire state of New York State has 19.5 million people living in the entire state. 86 million people, so 8.6 million people is almost half the population of the entire state happens to live in New York City. But I took the entire state, okay? 285 deaths are reported in the entire state of New York, out of entire state of New York having 19.5 million people. So if you do the statistics on this, it is 0.005%. I've rounded it all. 0.005% of the population of New York State has died since the coronavirus has been starting to tabulate and calculate, all right? And I put these are small fractions. No, and I put no question mark, right? Now, I did try to play it fair. And I did try to take the positive cases in New York State. There have been 30,811 positive cases in New York State. And out of the 285 deaths that have occurred, that is still less than 1% of the positive cases in New York State that have died. That is less than 1%. I put 1%, but it's less than 1% of the population. And you can figure that out easily. Just move the decimal over. 10% of 30,000 would be 3,081. 1% would be 308. So you just slide the decimal point 2 over to get 1% instead of 100%. So that's 308. So less than 1%, because 1% would be 308 people that died. Less than 1% is less than 308. 285 deaths. So that's less than 1%. You can see right easy, right? Now I took it one step further. I took the amount of people hospitalized in New York State. That means that they're not sitting home with the virus, healing themselves, if you want to call it that, or sitting home in isolation while their immunity system builds up and they heal. I'm talking about the people hospitalized in New York State. Where is it? Here it is. 3,805 people are hospitalized in New York State. 3,805 with still the 285 deaths. Okay, so now that is a statistic of 7.5%. And you can figure it out again. If 10% of the people that were hospitalized died, that would be 380 people. So it's less than 380 people. It's 285. So obviously it's less than 10%. I calculated it and rounded it off. Out of 3,805 hospitalized New York State people, 285 have died. That is 7.5%. So that is a rather high statistic. We don't want to think about 7.5%. That would mean that in your neighborhood, if you gather 100 people in your neighborhood together, 7 of those 100 people are going to die. That's pretty frightening because you don't want to be in that statistic. You hope for a statistic of 1%, less than 1%, or much less than 1%. 0.005 makes you happy. Although you don't want to be happy when people are dying, but 0.005%, or if you take the entire population of the country of 330 million with 943 dying, that is 0.0003%. That's a very small number. That number makes you happy, although it's not happy to be in the knowing people that have died, right? And granted, it's not happy. But if you take the hospitalized New York State people, 3,805, 285 deaths, that's 7.5%. That's a rather high number. But if you, like I said here, so if you are critical enough to be hospitalized, 7.5% of those will die. That's not a pleasant statistic. But wasn't it said that those that die are elderly? Now, I'm not saying we disregard the elderly, but just listen to this. And I'm not saying we disregard the elderly. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But wasn't it said that those that die are elderly with, and I think I heard this correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, with 3 pre-existing conditions. I think I heard this yesterday. I'm pretty sure I did. So those that are dying are elderly with 3 pre-existing conditions. Maybe they have a kidney and then they have a heart condition over the years and something else. I think I heard that. Not 1 or 2, but 3 pre-existing conditions. Again, if you find us in error, please correct me. Now, do we close that? Like I said, now, here's the question. Here's the question that Trump is trying to field. People are coming at Trump, and here I am talking about it. Let me take a sip here of something I'm drinking. Now, I say here, now, do we close down the economy of the United States, or do we expect the elderly with 3 pre-existing conditions to take extreme precautions? I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to read the rest. It just seems that we have put everything in a total standstill, and although I do not think we are ready to turn the country's lights on today, I do think it can be evaluated daily and see where we are day by day and then make a final decision. And Trump is not saying that we open up the country today. He has picked a day, marked it down in his calendar as a projected target, and I am sure there will be an evaluation as the day approaches. All right? I go further here. And I'm right here now if you want to read along with me. The elderly that would be most susceptible to dying are those with weakened immune systems or conditions that make them vulnerable. And I give you an example. For instance, my parents. My father, I think it was like 10 years ago, he had a mild heart attack. Not much, but a mild heart attack. And he had blood vessels blocked. You get calcium buildup or whatever. You get, what's that? The good and the bad. I forget the name of it, but it doesn't matter. You get clogged arteries. So he had 2 stents placed in his arteries and opened it up, and now he's living well. It's been 10 years ago. He had it done when he was 77. My father's 87. He's not in bad shape for the most part. Really, he's not in bad shape, but he's 87. And he's got a pre-existing condition. He's got a heart problem. He had surgery to his heart with stents put in. So he's got one. He's never smoked. His lungs are pretty good. He's got one pre-existing condition at the age of 87. My mother just came out of a surgery for arrhythmia just about 7 or 8 weeks ago. So she was lucky that she had the surgery before all the shit hit the fan at the hospitals. She had the surgery recently, so she's a little more fragile, except she's doing pretty well. And she happens to be 80 years old. So both of my parents are a little bit fragile. I think they can and have stayed home. And I validate that. They stay home. They go out. My father goes out more than my mother to get the groceries and stuff like that. He's careful. He stays 6 feet or further away. And he's been washing his hands thoroughly. He's got a bacteria soap I've never even heard of. That it's supposed to be an amazing soap because he's always into that. So he washes up when he comes. So he's playing it safe. So now I go on here. But do consider that those in the lower, now I'm talking about us now, the regulars outside of my parents and outside of the fragile elderly people with one pre-existing condition, 2 or 3, who are part of that 7.5% statistic that's currently going on. Remember I said New York State, 3,805 people have been hospitalized, 285 deaths, which equals 7.5%. These constitute elderly people with pre-existing conditions. And again, I think it was 3 pre-existing conditions of elderly people. It puts them in that 7.5% death rate. So now I put here for the regular people, you and me, age 61 I am. I don't have any pre-existing conditions. So I consider myself a lower or low risk group. And most of us are, correct? Well, most of us, even if we're elderly and we don't have pre-existing conditions, we're in a lower risk group. Not low, but lower because no pre-existing conditions, age 70, all right? Say that. But now me, 61 years old, no pre-existing conditions, I'm at the lower, low risk group. But do consider that those in the lower/low risk group can, will, and should be cautious. But that does not mean that we should be locked away and not being able to do anything but remain at home and not be able to earn a living. Especially in parts of the country. I happen to live in Arizona. I don't have the Arizona statistics in front of me. I think 2 people have died in Arizona. Now, I don't think we've tested a lot of people. But still, even though we haven't tested a lot of people, 2 people have died. That's it. So we even in New York State where we see 285 deaths, it's still, we haven't tested every single person in New York State, but only 285 have died. Now you can say only 285 people, but I'm saying 285 people have died. All right, so now, especially, like I'm going to continue on, especially in parts of the country, like I said, I live in Arizona now, especially in parts of the country where we seem to be doing rather well. What I mean by that is, should we open up the country and keep certain areas, and I think that's what Trump is speculating on, some of these hot spots, these trouble spots like New York City, surrounding boroughs of New York City, which might be at that 7.5% rate for people that have been hospitalized and die, those areas, maybe we keep them in quarantine. California, parts of, I'm not sure I understand totally. I don't have all the statistics that evidently the team has, the coronavirus team has, and they know all these numbers much more than I do or you do. So I say, so we're thinking about parts of the country to open up again, especially in parts of the country where we seem to be doing rather well. For example, my wife, this is me. For example, my wife, I'm not locked down in Arizona. I can go out. There's no martial law or anything that the governor hasn't said everyone stay home. Don't go out except for essential types of business. For example, my wife, myself, and Willie, our dog, walked around Scottsdale, Arizona, maintaining social distance. I even had videos of this weekend. Me walking around Scottsdale, Arizona, maintaining social distancing. We went to the grocery store today, came home, washed our hands twice, and used throwaway plastic bags when I was grabbing the handle of the shopping cart. That's the precaution I took today. I used a plastic bag to cover up the shopping cart handle. The store we went to, by the way, did not have that antiseptic where you go there and you can use it on your hands. They were out of it. The one that you go in the front door and they have that, you can rub it on your hands. It was not there. It was empty. So I used a plastic bag on the handle of the shopping cart. Made sure not to touch my eyes, my nose, my throat. My wife didn't either. Came home, we washed our hands twice. We also leave our shoes outside because our shoes have touched the ground. We usually take our shoes off and don't walk around the house with our shoes on, but this time we take our shoes off, leave them outside. And an elderly population, I'm talking now reflecting back to the elderly population. Up the top, it was the population of me and others in the lower and low risk group, which I consider myself to be. But the population in the higher risk group and the elderly population should be cautious in their daily lives, even outside of the virus. What I mean by that is elderly population with pre-existing conditions, when they go out, shouldn't they be more cautious anyway? Because they do have pre-existing conditions. They've got heart problem, so they're worried about that. Shouldn't they be more on alert anyway? And now what I say now is the elderly population should be cautious in their daily lives outside of this current virus, with the hope and probability that this will subside in a couple or 3 months. What I'm getting at is in the 2 or 3 months that we're waiting for the virus to blow over, in hopes that it will, because I heard in a temperature of 80 degrees and higher, at least it dies on the outside surfaces. So that means you go outside, and when you touch that fuel pump, or you touch the ATM machine, which by the way used to be called a Mac machine. You guys remember that? Money Access Center? It used to be called a Mac machine before it was called an ATM. I don't know if that's East Coast or West Coast, but East Coast used to call it a Mac machine. I even have a card that says Mac on it. MAC, Money Access Center. Now it's all ATM. But the virus is going to die on those buttons that you press, on the fuel pumps, on the ATM machine, once the temperature hits 80 degrees. And I've cross-referenced this to see that at least that is accurate. So that means when you go out and you're touching surfaces, you're not going to be as easily contaminated as you are right now. That doesn't mean it's going to die in people's bodies when they walk outside and it's 80 degrees, 85, 90 degrees. It's going to still be in your body, isolated from the 80, 90 degree temperature. So it's going to still be living in your body, but at least you won't touch a surface and get contaminated like you would now. So what I'm saying is, for that 2 to 3 months, do we keep America idle, or do we conduct business? And now my wife's twin sister lives in Japan. She called her twin sister last 2 nights ago, or last night. I think it was 2 nights ago. My wife is in Japan, and they're conducting business as usual in Japan, safely, but they've maintained their economy. I'm going to come back on now. You can see me again after all those statistics. I'm going to see if anyone's had anything to say in chat. Brian's here. Mary's here. Mary Adams says, we do need to have a plan to consider a time to reopen the economy. And I think that's what Trump is doing. He put a date on a calendar. I believe the date is the day after Easter Sunday, which is a Monday, obviously, right? He put that date on his calendar. I don't think he's going to keep that date on that calendar stuck on there I don't think he wrote it in blood. I think it's going to be a reevaluation between now and that date, hopefully a heavy involvement in understanding the statistics with his team to decide if that date sticks or if that date moves. I think it's a target date. I think it's a date he wanted to give out to the public with that anticipation of that date. But I believe that he is going to be studying the statistics along with his team to see if that date remains that date. All right? I don't think he's going to just stick that date on there and conform to that date. At least I hope so. Hope not, rather. Let's see. Mary says, not sure if that is true about the virus dying in hot temperature. You know what? I try to look up as thoroughly as I can. I try to cross-reference. I've seen one statistic, which I saw was disproven. I saw someone say that if you go to a sauna and you're breathing in that hot air from the sauna, when it enters your throat and goes into your lungs, it's going to kill the virus in your lungs. I read multiple accounts of that, finding it not to be true. Because even when you exhale, there's still an amount of air in your lungs and a coolness of that environment. Because when you breathe in, you're breathing in, of course, the outside air, but it cools down a bit as it enters your lungs. And then when you exhale, you remember it's a breeze, right? It's a breeze in, a breeze out. You stay under a fan outside in a hot temperature, under a fan that was, you got a canopy over you, so you're not having the sun burn down on you. and you feel that fan churning the air so it feels cooler. So your air in your lungs is cooled down. You breathe in that sauna air, which is hot air, mixing in with that cool air in your lungs is not warming your lungs to any degree of temperature. It's going to kill the virus. And I heard, what else did I hear? I also heard that you can breathe in and hold your breath for 10 seconds. If during that time you do not cough, you're supposed to be free of the disease, the virus in your lungs, I'm assuming at that particular exact moment. Now, there's been back and forth on that. I think even Terry, who's online right now, I think Terry supplied me with something that I think her boyfriend said, and I think what's your boyfriend's name? I forget. I think your boyfriend said that, who's involved in the medical profession, said that that's a test that he takes every morning. He breathes in deeply, holds it, sees if he can not cough for 10 seconds, and if he doesn't believe he has corona at that instant where he did that self-test. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. I think someone told me that that is not accurate. I think Mary, who's online right now, is the one that said that that is not true, and I believe that that should be found invalid if that is not true. And I don't actually believe that one. Now, Mary, can you tell me if right now, suppose right now, I, you, Terry, and Brian all breathe in for 10 seconds, and that's hard for me to do without talking because I'm such a noisy guy. And Terry's boyfriend's name is Michael. Thanks, I should have remembered that. So I'm going to breathe in for 10 seconds. Now, that was longer than 10 seconds. I didn't cough. I don't feel like coughing right now. So does that mean that I am free of the virus in my lungs, or does that just mean that I was able to pass that test, but it's inconclusive? I think I read, and I think Mary told me that we should take that test, and that's a disqualification. It's not accurate. And I think I read that in multiple cases, so it's not accurate. But remember that one of the things that people go to the hospital for is because they're coughing and they're having a hard time breathing. So it does stand to some reason, if you're having a hard time breathing, then you would not be able to breathe as deeply as I just did and hold it for those 10 seconds. Notice I breathe. Now, that was a pretty deep breath. If I did have the virus, one of the conditions is you can't breathe. So if this test is inaccurate, maybe it is somewhat accurate because I was able to take a deep breath and then hold it without coughing. Because one of the symptoms of the virus in your lungs is that you have a tendency of having a dry cough. So if you have a dry cough, you're going to be coughing quite often. So during that deep breath, which you wouldn't be able to have if you had the virus, you remember you have a hard time breathing, and then you also have a hard time not coughing. It seems like that test could be a little bit of a calming factor to you not having the virus. It seems like it's a little bit logical. So Terry's saying, this is what the doctors at Mass General, Mass meaning Massachusetts General, are doing. So that is interesting. I don't know any doctor. So of course I go for yearly physicals. I don't feel like calling up on the phone and asking them if that test is accurate or not. But that is somewhat of an interesting thing. Breathe deeply, hold it for 10 seconds. If you can breathe deeply, then that is a sign that your lungs can carry in that total oxygen, which if you were suffering from the virus, one of the things with the virus is you have trouble breathing, which probably means breathing deeply. Let's see who this is. Hey, this is Dave Darren on the Dave Darren Show. Who's calling in, please?
Hey, Derek, this is Sparky. I missed the beginning of the show. I'm just picking up now, but I just had a couple of comments to make.
Okay, by the way, did you listen to my statistics at all? Did you gather that?
Yeah, I had a chance to see that. You know, that's one of the things I was calling about. You know, that's really great. And, you know, and I've been following everything, too. I have a whole notebook full of statistics and stuff from you listening and stuff. However, what do you think? Those are the current statistics. What do you think the statistics would be if we did not basically shut down the country? That's my question.
That's a good question. You know, and I was going to add that to my comments as we got on with the topic. You are right. They could be higher, By a little bit, by a lot, by a marginal amount. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I would guess by a large amount, just from, observing what's happened in the other countries.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. And then, that thing about holding the breath and everything, I've read a bunch of articles that have disproven that.
Right.
And then the thing about drinking water every 15 minutes, I sent you a thing, I don't know maybe if you got it on Messenger, and that supposedly is also not accurate. So I read a bunch of articles. You can read a bunch of articles on that. So I just wanted to contribute that. That was all.
Okay, but hang on here for a second because, I did say that, okay, so breathing in deeply. Remember, one of the symptoms of the virus in your lungs is an inability to be able to breathe normally.
Right.
So that would mean if I wake up in the morning and throughout the evening, maybe I couldn't sleep at all because I had a hard time breathing. So then I'm compromised and it's an issue and I got to deal with it. Because all night long, and I'm not saying me, I'm just saying if I was having that symptoms, I would be worrying. But if I wake up in the morning after a nice night's sleep and I can breathe in deeply as I did here on the radio show or podcast, whatever you want to call it, I was able to successfully breathe in very deeply right now. So that means to me it means to me, okay, I could breathe deeply. I was able to sleep last night. I was able to breathe all day. Tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. Arizona time, I took a very deep breath. So it feels to me like it's somewhat accurate at this particular moment that I'm not having trouble breathing. So
I don't know because I have really bad allergies sometimes. It's just starting to calm down a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But I have real bad, a couple of weeks ago I had real bad allergies. And so I tried that and I coughed, okay?
Yeah.
Now my allergies have calmed down. I tried it and I'm not coughing. So I don't know, just contributing calmness, that's all.
Yeah, well, you're right because now Arizona, by the way, we have an allergy season now. In fact, a couple of days ago we had a high pollen count and my wife is allergic to cotton and we've been walking our dog and we walked past cotton yesterday and she started sneezing. A few days ago I was sneezing. So the first thing in your mind is, oh my God, do I have it, right? And then you worry, then you're looking for a second symptom like fever. And then you're looking for a dry cough. You're looking for an inability to breathe. Now, actually, when you have an allergy, sometimes your breathing can be interfered with, and mine was. When you have an allergy.
Well, what's really interesting, there was a very nice video with this poor lady, and what she was addressing was the fact that I'm not too sure if she was. I guess she must have been in the hospital because she looked like she was hooked up to something, but she said that she did not have a fever. And I thought that was really interesting. And guess what? Facebook took it off.
Really?
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
There was another one I posted too, but I don't remember what it was, but they blocked too. Facebook's blocking a lot of stuff.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting. So anyway, I don't really have anything else. I just wanted to address that issue about if we did not shut down, what it would be like. Los Angeles said yesterday that they were 6 days behind New York. So I thought that was kind of scary. I have watched more news and stuff again. I watch both CNN and Fox News and whatever else I can watch because I like to compare information and see what people are saying and stuff. So, I mean, I just think it's a good idea to do that. And then I, again, go to my thing that I take it all as information. Don't believe it. Don't disbelieve it.
Yeah. Now, I won't. Let me give you something else. So my wife is Japanese, as you know it. And
I know it. She is so adorable. That picture that you posted of you and her and the dog, I didn't want to just give the dog a hug. I wanted to give your wife a hug. She just looks so adorable.
Yeah, she's pretty cute. She's cute inside as well. But
I'm sure. Well, you can see that in the pictures. I mean, she radiates. I guess is the best way to say it.
Oh yeah, she really does. Whenever we're at my parents' house or aunts or uncles or anything like that, you get immediate smiles from anyone that's seen my wife. So that's kind of cool.
Oh yeah, well she's the kind of person that I would want to be my friend.
Yep.
You know, that type of thing. You know, she's just totally adorable.
Yeah. But here, what was I going to say here? Oh yeah, so she's got a twin sister. Believe it or not, they're not identical twins. They're what's the other one? Fraternal twins, right?
Fraternal twins.
So that's what she's got. So her name's Keiko, by the way. So she calls up Keiko last night or the night before. I forget which it was. And I don't have old timers not to remember. I'm just so busy I forget.
Oh, but, you know what the thing is too? There is so much information now. That's why I started a notebook taking notes, because it gets to a point where if you want to talk about something, you can't necessarily access that information because the brain is currently on overload.
Yeah.
It's like having your hard drive overloaded.
Yep, and you know what? It's funny because now I'm remembering my dreams every night. You know that? I noticed that.
Interesting.
I've been remembering, maybe because my brain is in overdrive every night. And I had a funny dream. I dreamt, Sonny and Cher, right? Remember them?
Oh, yeah. So, in fact, I met Sonny down in Palm Desert, California, a number of years ago. Yeah.
So I had this dream. This is a bizarre dream. I dreamt that I was actually successful in radio with a female counterpart, and we did like a horror show on the air. And we did, instead of Sonny and Cher, we called ourselves Bloody and Scared.
Oh, that's hilarious. What was the name of the show again? I didn't quite catch that.
Oh, no. Well, I was saying...
No, that you were calling it. That you said, well, it could be a show called something, and I missed that part.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I had a dream, and when I woke up, I remembered the exact content of the dream. I remembered the girl that I was like a co-host with. So I had a successful radio show on whatever, I don't remember what station it was on or what city it was on. I just had a popular radio show, and instead of naming it the Sonny and Cher Show, we named it the Bloody and Scared Show. We did.
I think that's it. Yeah, but you're picking up in your dream, I think, the prevalent feeling of many people being scared. And so that's probably why your dream title reflected that, possibly.
Yeah.
It's a suggestion. I used to study dreams, so that's the only reason why I'm saying that.
How many dreams do you remember in a course of a month? How many dreams do you wake up and have a memory of? And there's two separations of that. I wake up sometimes and I'll remember a dream that I had for about 30 minutes and then it vanishes.
Yeah, that happens. I generally, for the most part, do not remember my dreams. The only dreams that I actually remember is if I dream generally between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning, and that dream will not go away, and it will haunt me all day, and it turns out to be a precog dream, and what I have dreamt happens.
Wow! Are you serious?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Fortunately, I haven't had one for a very, very long time. However, I will say that for a couple months period of time before all this started blowing up, I was so unhappy. It was like, what's wrong? What's going on here? Why? Because I'm a very happy person, and I don't believe in subscribing to negativity and stuff. So, I wasn't acting like me. Okay? But as soon as all this stuff broke, all those feelings went away. So I guess I somehow possibly was picking up upon what was going to happen. That's the only thing I can think of.
Wow, and that's interesting that you said these dreams that you've had, the next day they've come true in reality. You said that, right?
Yeah. Yep, I sure did.
Now, do you think that subconsciously you're guiding, and it could be, if you have a dream that someone robs a bank, and then someone robs the bank the next day, or you have a dream that there's going to be a fire in your next door neighbor's house and a fire happens, that's really targeted directly. But do you think that, for instance, you have a dream that something's going to happen and then it actually happens, but it's something that you could have guided to actually make happen? You know what I'm getting at?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just a dream of precognition.
Huh, okay.
Before Katrina, the day before Katrina really broke, I had a dream, and it started out with me seeing things breaking down and water gushing into an area, and then I saw like a big building, and there were all these people in this building with many, many floors. Well, that was what was it? what was it that they were housing those people were in? It was what was it?
Yeah, what was it? I forget. Was it a?
Yeah, I think you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, that's what all that was about. Many years ago, where I lived, I had a dream one night, and in the dream, I saw a whole lot of water, and I saw mud, and I saw people crying. And I can't remember the rest of it now. It was a long time ago. Well, the next night, one of the hill behind where two houses were collapsed through the house, hit one house, and it hit the other house, and all the other people, the people in the second house died. And when I went up to the scene, I was seeing exactly what I saw in my dream. It's just one of those weird things.
Wow, that is now. Have you ever been able to like have a dream, and then was it ever vividly, as specifically clear enough where you could identify the situation or location where you could actually warn?
That's exactly what I just told you.
Yeah, you did,
Yeah.
but that maybe you didn't expect it to happen, so you didn't contact that family to warn them.
No. Don't get. I never get specifics like that. It's it's just weird. It's just weird. One time, my ex-husband and I and Julie were camping, and I don't remember what state we were in, and I had told her, gee, I've had this dream about two small planes colliding, and then the next morning on the news was this news report about two small planes colliding. You know, and the thing is, with stuff like this, it's really weird, too, Dave, because you can get these dreams and these perceptions, but the actual locations are never shown to you.
Yeah.
The Lower Prairie earthquake, I dreamt that a couple of days before that happened, too, and it was a long time ago, so I don't remember specifically what I dreamed, but I remember I thought, oh, my gosh, oh, shit, I better check. So I checked all my supplies. I made sure I had water and the whole thing. And the next day I was in a meeting at City Hall, and the room started shaking. And I said to the guy that I was working with, I said, there's an earthquake. He said, yeah, it's a big earthquake. And then we looked at each other, and it didn't stop. So we both dove under the table. And I thought, okay, that's what it was. And I was really glad. I had plenty of food. I had plenty of water because everything was shut down. You know, you didn't have electricity or anything. And that was, you know, in the Bay Area. And that dream also, I remember, had a thing that I couldn't figure out what it was. It looked kind of like concrete blocks that fell upon one another. Well, that turned out to be the Golden Gate Bridge.
Wow.
With the yeah. So it's just interesting. I hate it. And I haven't, outside of this feeling, prior to this COVID situation, worldwide, I generally can't identify where it is, what the place is, or, anything like that. It's just, I don't know. And it's weird because it's not really nice to have a dream and just be plagued by that dream all day long, and then boom, something happens. Wow. It's not fun. It's not nice. I don't like it. I hate it.
But now, if you wanted to, I'm curious about this. You know, some people say that they dream when they drink a beer, or they dream when they have a pasta with some kind of sauce on it. They know things that trigger their dreams to be more active. Have you engaged in anything to figure out what engages your dreams to make them more active, or you haven't experimented, and maybe you don't want to experiment because you don't want to have your dream state come upon you more frequently? Did you figure out any way to control the frequency of your dreams and make them happen more often than less often?
No, I have not. Because as I said, usually I don't remember my dreams. Now, a number of years ago, I was kind of studying all of this and would tell myself when I went to sleep at night, I would remember my dreams, okay? And I got to the point where, in those days, remember those tiny little recorders that we used to have?
Yep.
That you could put. So I put one of those by my bed. And if I had a strange dream and it woke me up, and So what I would do is I would say a few words to the little recorder. And then I had several dream books. These dreams that give you a definition of what the spider refers to, or what an owl refers to, and that kind of stuff. I did this for a period of time, and what I found, it was extremely interesting. The symbology within the dreams was oftentimes telling me what was going to happen in the future for me. Huh. And I thought that was really, really fascinating. But I've kind of given that up. I should probably really start that again. But I really thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it is.
You dream about a dog or a pack of dogs that will have a particular symbology. I have several really fat books that address all the various topics that you can dream about and their supposed significance. And I found it to be true. And what I really found from that, what I thought was really interesting, sometimes what the symbology was seemed to address things that were going to happen in the future, and they did. For me, just myself.
Wow. Family
so
history.
There's a difference between that process and the other things that have happened to me, which I refer to as precognition dreams.
Huh. Fascinating. Now, you mentioned that you have most of your dreams that you remember during the course of the very early hours of between 4 and 6. You said that, right?
Yes, and it has always been between 4 and 6 in the morning, and the dream won't leave. The topic of the dream, what I've seen, stays with me and haunts me. It's just horrible. It's just absolutely horrible. And then, boom, it'll happen. It's just really weird.
And I noticed that I usually remember most of my dreams as soon as that alarm clock rings, and it wakes me up, and then I have my best ability to remember the dream when that alarm clock wakes me up in the middle of a dream. I can usually remember it at that point. Are you like that as well?
Well, not unless I program myself. I have to specifically during those periods of time where I was writing things down and I realized the symbology, and that the symbology was referring to my life, is when I made a real effort to remember the dreams. You can lay there at night, and as you're starting to go to sleep, you could say to yourself, I will remember my dreams.
Wow.
I will remember my dreams. And believe it or not, it works. And then you can get into, other, portions of dreams, also. It's just really fascinating.
It is. And sometimes when I have a dream and I wake up, because sometimes the dream actually makes me wake up, and then I want to continue that dream on just to see where it leads. I have about a 20% success rate in falling back into that continuation part 2 of that dream.
Oh, God, I hate that, especially when it's a bad dream. And you wake up and then you go back to sleep and it picks back up again. Oh, my God, I hate that.
Huh. Wow. So,
the other thing is lucid dreaming, where you start interacting with your dream. That's a whole thing you'd have to buy a book on, and it's really interesting. That's only happened to me a couple of times, and it's really strange.
Well, I don't
get some good big long conversation about it, but I mean, if you're interested in lucid dreaming, it would be fun. There's a couple of really good books on it.
Stimulate me a little bit. What is that? You're interacting with your dream. Now, you're interacting how? Your physical body, you mean in bed, is actually like moving or flailing around? What is it?
It's a mental thing.
Huh.
I honestly, Dave, I really don't know how to really describe it, except for, what kind of example could I use? You're going to see somebody, and the situation, I hope I'm doing this correctly, the situation you find yourself isn't a good situation, and you're dreaming about it, but then, yet again, you flip into you're in that situation. I really don't know how to effectively describe it to you. Maybe I can get out. I have a book, so I have so many books. I have several books on it. Now, see if I can find a better description, and if I can, I'll message it to you.
Okay, let me get another couple things from you, and then we'll have another caller calling in. But I would.
I don't mean to hold.
No, it's okay.
You got somebody coming in. Let me know. I'll get off.
Okay,
because people need to be able to get on here and talk.
Yeah, but one of the things I'd like to ask you to do is the next time you have a dream and you think you're going to have a dream, think about me and think about if I'm going to have a successful show. Okay, think if I'm going to be really successful at the radio thing that I'm doing. But that's a joke. But
well, let me say this, Dave. You are doing a really good job, and I think the best jobs that you do, to me anyway, is when we're really addressing a serious topic. Yeah. And I think, you ask good questions, you interact so well, and you're just doing a great job. You really
thanks.
are.
Let me ask you, I'm curious about this. What is I have a dream that I have that recurs quite frequently, and it's always like, I'm not a scaredy cat or afraid of anything, but I'm always running away from something, and I don't know what it is, and I'm always running away from whatever that is at a high point, and there's always a winding staircase, and I'm actually holding on to the rail, able to like almost slide on the rail, like my hands are full of grease where I can slide down the rail, and my body is actually horizontal as I'm grabbing the handrail, and I'm actually floating horizontally while holding the handrail. And then that's of course the other dream a lot of people have is that they can fly. So
that flying dream. I've never had a flying dream.
Really?
Yeah, I've never had a flying dream. My daughter has flying dreams. In fact, my daughter can very easily go out of body. I only had an out of body experience once. And it was when I was really studying it for, probably a couple of years. And it really freaked me out because one night, all of a sudden, I will use the term that I woke up, okay? I am standing next to my bed. I am looking at my body laying in the bed. And I thought, oh, my God, I actually finally did it. Let me backtrack a little bit. Different people have different suggestions as how you can achieve an out-of-body experience. Don't eat anything. Don't eat anything that isn't meat. Don't eat peanuts. And it goes on and on. But anyway, so I did this, and I am standing next to my bed, looking at my body laying in the bed, okay? And I thought, oh my God, cool! I finally did it, okay? Explain that, I really can't except for that. And then all of a sudden I saw another one of me laying back into my body. And I'm going, okay, they talk about you going out and being out of body, but I have never, ever had this explained to me before. I've never seen this before. And so as soon as I thought that, I got scared, and the next thing I knew, I was back in my body. Okay?
Wow.
So I did tons and tons and tons of research, and then finally I found it was in a book about the kahunas in Hawaii, and they described that as a dual projection.
Huh.
So I never really followed up too much past that. So it says to me, okay, if you die and you go somewhere, is there another one of you that could potentially stay on Earth? Is that what haunting is? I don't know. It was a very, very, very interesting experience, and I've never been able to do that since. But as I say, my daughter can leave her body and go places and fly around and, that kind of stuff. I did have one other experience one time where I was sleeping and I woke up, but with my eyes closed, I could see I was traveling out somewhere, and it was very black, but there were lots of little blinky lights. And I had thought to myself, oh my God, am I out in the universe? And as soon as I thought that, I was completely back to where I was, and the whole vision disappeared.
Wow,
So
this is all
I hope
yeah.
talking about this stuff will maybe, hopefully, other people that are listening maybe might call in with some of their experiences if they've had any. I hope so.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of calls, but I wanted to stay online with you now, not to be selfish to let no one else come on. But I find this fascinating, and hopefully people will call after you to share this experience. But here's another thing that happens to me. So, like, I'll be driving, and for instance, not too long ago, I was driving my Jeep. Someone in front of me stopped rather quickly. That's the thing that happens when you have a city that has those photo radar cameras at the intersections. Some people will go through the yellow light. Some people will think that yellow light's going to turn red, and they're going to slam on their brakes, and the guy behind them is going to smash into them. So that's the bad thing about photo radar cameras. But this happened to me. So there was a yellow light. The person stopped instantly on a dime. I'm behind them thinking that they're going to go through it because there's still about 6 or 7 seconds where we could both go through without violating the red light and getting a speeding ticket. So she stopped and I stopped and I almost hit her. And then in my mind, I'm thinking, I wonder if there's people think that every possible way that a situation could go happens in Dave Darren's alternate universe. So there's Dave living now. There's Dave that had the accident. There's Dave that had.
You never know. You never know. I'll tell you a real weird. This has happened to me several times. One time I had a graphic design business, and I also handled printing. And I was driving into San Francisco to deliver a print job. And I heard this voice, and this is several times that this has happened to me, and it was a male voice, and it was on by my left ear, and it says, "You are going to have a flat tire." And I just went, "Hey, you're right." I don't know. So anyway, so I get to the print shop and didn't think anything of it. Got out, took care of my business, drove back home. I was on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce. I needed to go to the Chamber of Commerce, and I drove into Eureka Parking Garage or parking area, Eureka Center, got out of my car, and I heard a strange little noise. And I looked, and my left front tire was going flat.
Wow.
I will never forget that. Okay, another time, there was I won't go into it. It was just a difficult life situation, and I was extremely worried about the person. I had been out cross-country skiing. The guy that I was cross-country skiing was way far ahead of me, and it was that same weird scenario. I heard this voice, and I was worried, okay, about the person. This voice said, "It will be okay." And turned out to be okay. I mean, there's so much weird stuff in life that we don't understand. It's kind of cool. I'm kind of glad I can share this stuff with you.
Yeah, well, the whole thing. For instance, my mother recently had a surgery. She had an arrhythmia in her heart. So what they do is they call it ablation. You ever hear this?
Ablation. Yes, I'm familiar with that.
So she had that, and what it is the heart is an electrical impulse, and the electrical impulses sometimes go wild and go bizarre. It's almost like there's a short circuit in the electrical printed circuit board. So there were misfirings into my mother's heart, making her jump a beat or slow down, whatever it was. So they kill that part of the heart by burning it, from what I understand, so that electrical impulse doesn't falsely signal the heart to beat. So if you really think about it, the heart is an electrical impulse. When they study,
we are electrical beings.
Yeah, and when they study the brain, they're showing all these electrical things. So if you really think about it, electricity is something that can be within our body, and it can be when we're asleep. We're still throwing off electrical impulses. So I wonder how much of this is really our electrical energy leaving the body, being more sensitive to stuff that's around us because there's another electrical impulse that's close to our body, so they're connecting to each other somehow. So it is, when we die, I'm not sure that, do we turn into an electrical energy? I'm not sure. It's an amazing study, right?
Yeah, it is. I have had experiences with that. I guess the most interesting was I was on the board of directors for our local TV station, and I started questioning some of the reports that the general manager was putting out. Well, long story short, I ended up having to present all my investigation to the rest of the board members, and I was high. My energy level was extremely high on this.
Huh.
So I went in, and I realized that I was short one packet of information. So I thought, okay, well, I better, make a photocopy real quick because the meeting's going to start pretty quick. Well, I touched the copy machine and it died. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And then I thought, well, I'll make a cup of tea. I touched the microwave died.
Wow.
They both came on later. But then I started thinking about it. And I was thinking, well, when I worked, I was an independent contractor for managing a huge festival for the city that I worked in, and I had my own office up there in City Hall. And I, after a while, kind of noticed that there was one particular secretary that every time that she had to put the packets together for city council, the copy machine would break. So I thought to myself, when that happened, I thought, well, maybe it's me causing this to happen. And I thought, well, maybe that's what's wrong with that gal. So, we are electrical beings.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're really cognizant of the amount of effect that we can have when our electrical energy even raises in our bodies. So, I don't know. I don't have any answers. It's just experience that I'm sharing.
Yeah, actually, it's fascinating. The other thing I always think about is, when I was talking to you about, the vehicle in front of me that I almost hit, and I think there's an alternative universe where Dave Darren actually did hit her. There's an alternative universe where I was actually driving faster than I should have been, and I hit her, and there was a big damage to her health. Or there was another situation where Dave Darren actually hit her and spun over and Dave died. Sometimes I think that we are living in a fluctuating life. Like, for instance, so now I had the situation where no damage came to me or her. And the situation where I'm living in an alternative universe where I did die, I'm thinking that I am the best of my multiple universes. I'm living in the best of the alternative universes. So when I have a situation and it goes bad in my alternative universe, my best being is living the filtered out bad stuff, and I'm living the best. It's like you're driving. I'm explaining this very poorly, but I'm living in a road, and all the tangents are occurring. They're all my alternate lives of Dave Darren. So one of the tangents that goes off, Dave dies, another tangent, Dave survives. I am living the best of all of those products. So in other words, I don't die. Now the other Dave died, but he's more of a Dave that's sort of living in his own reality, but at least I'm the product that gets to live the best of all the situations. Sometimes I think that is me. I'm living, believe it or not, this is the best I can be. But no, all joking aside, sometimes I think that. I wonder how many people think that.
I had what I consider an alternative universe example. You could laugh if you want, but I really believe it was. I don't believe I was dreaming because I've never had this happen before, and I've never had it since. Scientists believe they think that there are 11 alternative other universes. Okay, I woke up one night, and then I kind of went back to sleep, and then I woke up again, and I was me, and I was laying in my bed. And I remember looking, and there was a round table next to the bed, kind of like a little bedside table, but it was round. And I remember that it had like a tablecloth on it. And I remember the bed was very heavy wood. And I remember listening and thinking to myself, oh, he's not home yet.
Huh.
Then I went back to sleep, and I woke up again, and I was in my own bed. And it really made me take a few mental steps back, and I thought, well, that's interesting. where was I? Is that another me living in an alternative universe? Or is this me living in the same universe and there's more than one me? I mean, all this stuff ties into kind of like some scientific research. But it was a really interesting experience.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the humans and our minds and our electrical impulses in our bodies, they're really not understood, and maybe they won't be understood for a long, long time. Maybe it'll never be understood. It's impossible for us to really grasp it. I'm not sure, but it is amazing.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah,
I don't either. I think the basic thing, Dave, is there is so much that we do not know. And we do not understand. And I wonder if maybe at some point in time on the planet, maybe people did, and the information has been lost. I don't know. That's the only thing I can say.
Oh, do you think that there were people on the planet before they destroyed themselves, and were a version 2 and or maybe a version 3 of life on this planet? Do you think that that's true, or possible, or speculating on it? What do you think?
I think there's a possibility that there have been many civilizations on the planet that have disappeared.
Yeah.
That just my. I really like aliens and all those kind of programs, but it just seems logical. If you watch Ancient Aliens or do any of your own research into images that have been carved into walls, caves, etc., that also show depictions of what is looking like UFOs. I just think that there's just so much we do not know. They talk when you get into the paranormal stuff and UFO stuff, and they talk about people that supposedly, and I'm always saying supposedly because it falls into the thing of not believing, that's not disbelieving, but just taking things as information. But Hopkins has a book, and he wrote about this woman in, I believe it was New York, and that was an example of how supposedly ETs will take a person, take them out of their bedroom, they go through the walls, and then they end up into the UFO. Okay? Now, if that technology really does exist, could it be that is the technology that actually built the pyramids throughout the world? I'm not just talking about the pyramids at Giza, because there are pyramids all the way around the world, and we don't know how they're built. You'll get these comments and these analysis supposedly that, oh yeah, they took these huge rocks and they moved them with rolling them and using these poles and all this kind of stuff that they say. Mm-hmm. Well, perhaps there was once a technology that was known on planet Earth, and possibly the technology that's supposedly moves these people out of their bedrooms into spacecraft. Maybe that was the same technology that was used to build the pyramids. Maybe they had a way of creating these stones and moving these stones into place. Because I've heard all these other ideas on how the pyramids are built, but I have never yet once read anything on how did they get them stacked upon one another to reach the top of the pyramids. So I sometimes wonder if there is that technology that once existed that has been lost.
Yeah, well, all you have to do, and this is obviously a simple way of saying it, but a very complicated thing to understand, is the control of gravity, right? If you can control gravity, obviously you can control the weight of an object and make it very light and able to manipulate and move or float or hover or whatever, or hit the ground at its full weight that the Earth makes that weight to be. So if you can control...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can control the gravity, you can control just about everything, whether gravity can be controlled or not. But obviously, it can be controlled because the gravity on planet Earth versus the gravity on other planets, the gravity on the moon, it's not consistently one gravity. So if you really think about it, gravity can be controlled because it is controlled in a different volume based upon where you're located. So it can can be controlled. Absolutely, it can be controlled. If it couldn't be controlled, it would be static across the entire universe. Every planet you land on would have the same gravity. So it can be controlled. We just don't know how to control it to that degree. So it's these topics are interesting. Sometimes I think there's been science fiction programs on this as well. So I think one of them was Twilight Zone. But sometimes you maybe we were abducted by. If you think about it. Every person knows about 12, 13, 20 people. They work with about 10 people that they get to know. They have maybe 10 relatives that they're, maybe 40 people. Let's say everyone knows about 40 people. So suppose we're abducted by aliens and that spacecraft has 40 of us and they make the 40 of us interact with each other to see how we react to each other to do an experiment. So maybe we are all in a stationary bed on a spacecraft, manipulated, intertwined with 40 other people that they're conducting the experiments with. And I think there's, so sometimes I think, I'm talking to you right now, but are you really there? Or maybe you're the person that's real, and I'm the person that's fabricated in your life, and you're the person that really exists.
Yeah. I don't know. We just don't know. There's just so many ways of looking at this stuff. It's so extremely interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. And sometimes I wish I still did the UFO show because we're talking about it tonight like we're doing my show from 2.5 months ago or 3 months ago. Because I do find this stuff fascinating and interesting, especially when I talk to people like-minded like you who can have a conversation with me. So it's great. So I appreciate your call. So we talked about a lot of stuff tonight. It was great.
Yeah, we did. Well, thank you very much. It's been really, really fun, and I hope it spurred a whole bunch of other people to want to call in with some of their ideas and experiences, too.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so thanks very much, Sparky, for calling in and sharing your time with me tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Okay, cheers. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, so we started off doing a topic about the situation on the coronavirus. And then we went to some fascinating topics, and I'm glad we got a call in on that. So again, Sparky said if anyone else wants to call, I'm sorry I put most of you on voicemail because I wanted to have the conversation with her specifically. But anyone else that wants to call now, please ring the number 480-236-2111. I see some people dropped off. I'm not quite sure why. But if anyone wants to call in right now, Terry or I think Azariana wanted to call in, or anyone else wants to call in, 480-236-2111. And what I'll do right now while we're waiting for a call is I'll play something. You know what I'll do? I will play a song that I wrote called City Lights. This is me playing the guitar with some background music that I downloaded from YouTube, I guess it was. I found some cool piano stuff and I added my guitar playing to it. And you will get some of the imagery from me walking our dog Willie around, and I'll take this call and I'll put them on right after City Lights. Okay, back to the Dave Darren Show. We do have a caller. We have Azariana on the phone. How's it going, Azariana?
Pretty good, Dave. How are you tonight?
Pretty good. So we're doing kind of, we started off on one topic. We went into other topics. So this is kind of an open mic night or open, what did Art Bell call it? Open caller night, whatever. So whatever you want to talk about, we get to talk about. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I was just going to agree with Sparky when you had her on. I thought I thought you were going back. I thought you had talked about that a while ago, or that was the topic on your other show.
Yeah. It's funny because I kind of miss doing that UFO paranormal show. But so if the show ever dwells into it, I'm very capable of going back to that because I find it still fascinating. So what did you find interesting with Sparky? What have you discovered on your own? Bring up the topic you want to talk about.
Oh no, I do the same thing. I had wrote in the comments that I don't dream. I just I do astral travel. If I do dream, it's usually a message, and I dream it 3 times, and then I try to change it. And if it doesn't change, I know that it's going to happen. If you can change it, there's still time to,
Wow. So you were able to. So now, what are you able to manipulate? Are you able to manipulate your dream? Or are you able to manipulate the reality that occurs after the dream? Tell me more about that. What are you manipulating?
Oh no! If I astral travel, sometimes I choose where I'd like to go, or what I would like to do, or who I would like to see. Other times I don't have a choice. I'm just there, somewhere. And like I said, I really don't dream. I've flown in my.
Go ahead. I'm not interrupting you. Keep going.
No, yeah, I've flown in my dreams, and I haven't done that in a while because I don't like that.
Huh.
I don't like the separation. There's too much separation for me with that.
Yeah. Now, when you do this astro traveling, what is this the out of body experience type of thing? That's what it is, right? Obviously, you're out of body and you moved from your body, and now you are going to a certain. When you're going to another place, is it instantaneous, or do you actually feel the flying from one location to another, or is it instantaneous?
Sometimes it's instantaneous. Other times it takes a little bit.
Now, sometimes like you said, you go and you seem like you're directed to go in one location. You don't have any choice. Sometimes when you're having that out-of-body experience and it's not the instantaneous projection to that one location, can you dynamically decide where to go? Like you're out of the body, you decide, okay, so where am I going to go right now? Do you have any control of it like you would in a car? You get in a car and sometimes you got to go to work, but sometimes you get in the car and you think, you know what, I'm going to turn left. I've never turned left. Let me turn left and see what's in that direction. I just moved to this area of the country. I did that when I moved to Arizona. I decided, you know what? I told my wife, I said, just let's go down Route 60 until we've never gone beyond the East Valley by 15 miles. Let's just keep going and see where we end up. Can you do that when you're out of your body? Can you make a determination right now? You know what? I'm just going to go this direction and see what's out there in this direction. Can you do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Huh.
I can do that. I also, as I've said before, I can choose to observe or participate in the dream or astral travel.
Now, how about if the other person you're traveling to does not want you to be separate from that? When you go there and you meet a particular person and you just want to observe that person, does that person ever have any sense of you being there and he will drag you into his reality or her reality and you don't have any choice? Do you have complete control of your situation that you are currently in? Do you have control of that? Or sometimes is the control out of your hands?
About 90% of the time I have control of it. 10%, not really. I had I was astral travel. I apologize for that. I was astral traveling years ago, and there was some person that was in my travels, and took me out of where I was and put me in this person's dream. And so she was talking to me, and we were having a conversation and stuff. And I says, "Well, I don't want to be here." And she says, "Well, you're in my dream. I asked for you."
Huh.
And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to." So she was manipulating for a couple of days, and finally I said, no way, go away. And I kind of blocked her, and she never bothered me again.
Wow. So this is interesting because Sparky and I were talking about this. So when you're traveling and you're going to meet an individual, and you said you have 90% control of that situation that's occurring, is there any way for you to have that conversation with that other being? Did they, the next day when you talk to them and you have astral traveled to meet them, and you had a conversation with them, or you had an interaction with them, even if it's not a conversation, you had an interaction with them. The next day, if you approach them, do they recognize that occurred, or are they removed from it when you leave and it vanishes from their recollection?
No. A funny story. A girlfriend of mine, we were doing, we made an agreement to meet somewhere on the astral plane, astral traveling that night. And I said, "Oh, okay, that's good, And we said that would be really nice if we could, So that night I asked to go to that spot, and I did manage to meet with her, and I was talking to her and the whole thing, and she wasn't there that long, and I was there a lot longer. So the next day I happened to go see her, and she says, "I saw you." She says, "You remember the conversation we had?" I said, "Yep."
Wow.
So I've done that once because she's awesome anyway, but I've only done that once.
Huh. Now, I'm curious about this. This is, and I know we had this conversation before, you and I, and it was probably about 6 months ago when I was doing the paranormal show. So some of this stuff we talked about. So I'm trying to remember what we talked about to cover fresh material so we don't parallel that for any of the people joining the show that remember this conversation in that episode of the show. But here's one for you I think I did not ask. So when you travel to these locations and you meet an individual person, can you continue this relationship with them indefinitely? Like, for instance, you meet that you astral project for instance, I'm curious about this. Do you think you could astral project to me if I asked you to? Could you astral project to me, target to me?
I've actually done it with the same person, and not realizing I was doing it, and so it kind of freaked her out that I did it, not knowing I did it.
Could you do it to me, or now would I have to be what's the word I'm looking for? Would I have to be allowing you to do it? Would I have to be more open-minded towards it? What would the situation be for me to allow you to astral project to me?
Well, that's a new one for me, so I'm still learning that.
Huh.
So I think it would be a little bit hard, but I think that, I know you from YouTube or Facebook. I usually work better with people that I have, that I know or that I see or that I meet in person, as opposed to, anything else.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm just learning it.
Right. Now, I'm curious about this, and I don't remember if I asked you this one on our first episode discussing this, but obviously there's some people in your family who have passed away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be your mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, aunt? Identify one person has passed away that you have astro projected to. Anyone like that?
Yeah, my son
Your son.
and my husband.
Okay, your son and your husband. So you have done this. You've communicated with them in the afterlife. Now, when you communicated with them in the afterlife, did you just analyze them and your awareness of them was there? Were they aware of you?
Oh no, we have a visit. It's almost like it's almost like I'm there for like on a daily visit or nightly visit. You know. It's real. I'm participating. I can touch them. I can, I can see my surroundings. I can sit in a chair, things like that, So, and have conversations and stuff. So we do visit.
Now, where are they? Where, you visit them, and now are they sometimes visiting you, or you're always initiating the transportation of you to them, or do they sometimes visit you?
No, they're always around me. I only allow certain things in my house. So obviously my loved ones are always allowed. I always make sure that who it is. I can discern that.
Okay, now when you meet with them, obviously the situation you had with them is you live together. You live with your son, you live with your husband in the current house you either live in now or the house that you used to live in. So when you visit them, are you visiting them in a common surrounding? Now you said that they're all around you, so that means that they're around you in your current dwelling, your current home. So when you visit them, they are there, or are they sometimes somewhere outside of the home where you're visiting them in their realm, which might not even be a surrounding of a home. It could be just an atmosphere that doesn't have any foundation to it. How do you visit them? Where are they when you visit them?
Well, we've kind of gone to a mixture of places that we've lived in.
Huh.
And every place is, every house, apartment, or whatever has some kind of version. It's all like a combination. And it's always, and I recognize it. I go, oh, well, okay, well, when we lived here, it had that. And when we lived here, it had that, And it just seems to be a comfortable, maybe, meeting spot, for us.
Huh. Can you actually relive a portion of your life? Obviously, there's always been happy memories, and there's always been sad moments with anyone's life. Can you actually approach them and relive any portion of your life that you've had with them and replay it again?
Yeah.
You can, okay. And you've obviously done that then, correct?
Yes, I have.
Wow, that is fascinating, and it's been as fulfilling as it was when it happened in this reality. Obviously, it's been as identically fulfilling, correct?
Well, it is, and then I wake up and they're not here.
Yeah.
I'd rather have them here physically than,
Now, it's good you can control this because obviously there's parts of our lives we'd rather not relive. So are you ever brought into that that visit with them where you're not living the good part, you're living in the bad part, and you didn't want it to set up that way, but you're forced into it? Have you ever been forced into living one of the redos of the negative portions of your situation with that individual?
Well, with that, it's usually a memory, whatever. Everyone has lessons, and and like I said, with them, they seem to where they are. They sometimes seem to remember it, and it's kind of like a review, and that, and a couple of times it's either good things or bad things, and then they're where they are now. It's like, wow, I didn't realize,
Huh. Well, this is really interesting to me tonight to be discussing these things we haven't talked about in a long time. When you're meeting this, whether it be your father or your son, and they're in that beyond life in a different situation that we're living right now amongst each other, but there's more to our living right now amongst each other because you're bringing it out, and so did Sparky. Do you ever talk about the fact that they died and they're gone, and do they miss living in this reality? Do they miss it, or they're very content where they are?
No, they realize. I mean, they realize they're gone, But they also realize the things that they could do. They're not tied down to the human body. They can do a lot more things.
Now, by the way, have your father I'm sorry, it's your husband, right? Is it your husband?
Yeah.
Okay, your husband and your son. So have they met each other in this afterlife? Are they communicating with each other? Or are you communicating with them individually? Or are you the unity that you bring your husband and your son together when you're in that realm? Or do they converse amongst themselves when you're not there?
The first couple of times they both were at the same spot.
Were they aware of each other being in the same spot? Were they aware of that, or they just happened to be there without knowing that they were both in the same spot?
No. It was it was kind of planned. It was kind of planned, or they planned it, not me. They planned it.
Huh.
And now it's usually just my husband. My son is doing something else, so he's on his own. I know what he's doing, so he's usually not there all the time. He does visit, but he has lots of things that he has to do on the other side. So
now that's interesting. Okay, so now he's a younger guy, and if he was living with us right now, he might be somebody who wants to do stuff on their own. Like, for instance, everyone, when they're 16 or 17-year-old, they don't want to go with their parents anywhere, right? They just want to be on their own. When their parents go out, they're happy because they got the house to themselves. I was like that. So when your son is away, do you have any ability to, like, reprimand him and say, look, I'm your mother. I'm going to be here tomorrow. You weren't here. You were supposed to be here. You weren't here. I'm upset with you. Is there any interaction like that where you're the parent and he's the person that you're communicating with in the afterlife? Do you have any control over mandating for him to be responsible? Do you have any control over him in that way?
Oh no. It's kind of prearranged that on certain, he's told me that he has these things to do, so he can't come all the time, and so he's doing, like I said, I know what he's doing, so he's got stuff to do. Like I said, he visits when he can, and I do talk to him. I mean, I talk to my husband, I talk to my son, so I know they hear it, but my son can't always visit. My husband he's always around here anyway, so I like that.
I got to ask you this question. Your son is your son. You're visiting him, and then he's doing something else. What the heck is he doing? What is he doing that's so important? I got to ask that. What's he doing?
The life that he had, the last life that he had with us, that was his last life. He ascended. He ascended.
Okay.
So he won't be coming back. Some people keep coming back and to learn their lessons. Well, he's learned his lessons and he has ascended. So he is with teachers, and he won't be coming back in human form again. So he has, like I said, he comes to visit, and and I hear him and stuff like that. And he's old, he is around at times, and he hears us. But he has, because he has learned his lessons. He has a higher purpose. Let's just say.
Do they remember their prior lives? You said, okay, so your son has lived his fullness of his many lives, and now he's moved on. Are they aware of what they were in their previous lives, or they just know that they had previous lives, but they're not aware of specifically what they were? So are they in full understanding of their previous lives?
Yes, he was.
Huh. Wow. So I keep writing down questions here. By the way, so your son has moved on, but you're still talking to your husband, correct?
Yes.
Now he hasn't moved on like your son has. Is he coming back and he's in some kind of a holding pattern, waiting for himself to come back and be reincarnated? And at that point, will he have any ability to talk to you? Because you can astro travel and meet him when he's reincarnated as another being. So I guess two-part question. First of all, is he coming back? Is he projected, and is he in a holding period now to eventually come back amongst us?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, so when he comes back here, will he remember the previous life that he had? Probably not, right? He won't remember that at all, correct?
He might.
He might.
He might.
Okay, will you be able to target him? You're targeting him now, where you're projecting yourself to meet him in the afterlife. When he comes back here from this holding pattern he's in now, where he's communicating with you, but he's got to come back here because he's not moved on like your son. When he comes back here amongst us, well, first of all, will he come back as a human, or that's still unknown? We don't know that, right?
No. Human.
Oh, he's going to come back as a human. Now, will you be able to target him and meet him again and astro project towards him and direct your communication with him? Or because you're communicating with him now in the afterlife, once he comes back here, will you lose that connection?
No.
No.
What has happened in my past lives and my sons, and we talk about it a lot, my son and I. What has happened is that in past lives, my son was my husband.
Huh.
My daughter was somebody else. My husband that passed away, he was somebody else within the family. So you always stick with the same group.
Really? Okay. Huh.
So the next life, or the next whatever I'm doing, the ascension or whatever it is, he's going to be, he's going to be in the order. He's going to be within that family type. So I've seen it, so I'm not worried about it.
Huh. Are they telling you not to worry about that? Are you right now familiar with your previous lives? I think when I had you on the other show, I think you said you were, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Okay, so in the previous lives that you lived, and now you're living a different life, but you have an awareness of your previous lives. So now you're not scared of death at all, evidently, correct? Because now not only do you know your previous lives, you know you came back, you're in communication with your husband and your son has moved on. So you have no fear of death whatsoever.
No.
No, not at all.
No.
That's a unique position to be in, because most people are fearful of the unknown when they die, but you're a unique individual where you're not at all.
Well, I'm unique anyway. So.
No, this is fascinating. So when you were, are you able to, like when your previous life ended and you became the you that you are now, but you're aware of your previous life, are you able to communicate with yourself in those previous lives?
No, I choose to observe, because the last one that I had, it wasn't very nice. So I choose to observe.
Uh-huh.
I know that life. I know that, and I don't like that one. So
Huh.
it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So I observe. I don't participate.
Are you going to move on after this life when you go and meet the realm that goes beyond this, the life where the realm where your husband and your son are, and your son's moved on? Do you have any vision of, is this your last life and you're going to move on, or are you going to have to come back, or you don't know?
No, I don't think I mean, it's a nice thought of coming back. However, I don't think I am. I think the next realm, well, I know about it, but I won't say it. So I've written about it and I know about it. So I know what to expect.
Okay, now here's a question for you, and I'm sure I never asked this question of anyone before, but now, okay, so now your husband is in the afterlife and he's got to come back. He's in the trajectory where he's got to come back. Does he have any control of when he comes back? For instance, now he might not want to come back tomorrow because we got the coronavirus. So if he was targeted to come back today, he might say to whatever controls the ability to come back, let's hold off for a couple months until the coronavirus is finished, then send me back. Does he have any control of when he comes back, past, present, or future?
Yeah, he had the life we had. It was a good life. I loved him, soulmate and stuff. However, he has lessons to learn. So he's got to go through and learn the lessons, and then he can go forward from them.
Okay, so he's got to learn lessons. Now, you said that when people come back, they come back into the group that they were associated with, the family, the group, the extended family, because the families are always growing and more people are being added to it. But maybe they're not being added; they're just being. So is for instance, when we have these, like right now, my wife and I don't have any children. Maybe in a previous life, I had 2 children. So, and some other life, maybe I had 5 children. Maybe another life, I had 1 child. But these same people, when they die, do they come back? So is the family unit stable of just the certain amount of members, or does it actually grow? Because we think of our family as growing. It's a husband and wife. They have 2 children. Those 2 children are married. They have maybe 2 children. So it's always a growing instability of amount of members. Is the amount of members in what you're talking about, the afterlife and the community they come back to, is it a static group that never grows?
I mean, I always say there's no coincidence. The people that I know that are either my family or that I'm close to, I knew them in past lives. It just depends what they were in a past life. The family unit, if you want to call it that, the family unit can grow. It can grow. So I have a friend, and it was when I first met her. It was like continuing a conversation. And I didn't know, and I was, it was like, wow, like you're seeing them again, and it was that closeness. I can't describe it, but that closeness, and so, so you tend to remain with the same group, whether they remain in your family, they're in your group. The group is a general, and every group is different. So you may have known your wife in the past. You may have known your wife in a past life, and she may have known you, and you could have been, like you said, you could have been a female, she could have been a male. You could have had different, you could have been family, or you could have been some kind of unit.
Huh.
You know, whether it be family unit or you knew her through through the different lifelines history. I'm not probably explaining it right.
Wow. So I could have been. I could have been a woman. I could have been transgendered, right? I could have been. Never know. So a little joke there. But let me. So now your husband, who you're in communication with, you're talking to him, and he's got lessons to learn. When he comes back, is he going to be knowledgeable of the lessons that he's got to learn? Is it like a checklist where I had this problem, I had this problem, I had this problem. So I'm back on the planet now. I'm back in the family, whether he's now not your husband, but he's someone else in the group of collection. So now he's back here. Does he know what he's got to correct? Or I'm assuming he doesn't know. It's just a random, brand new life to live where he might have the same errors. He might have less. He may have more. He may be building up things that he's got more troubles now than he does in the past life he just left. Is there any knowledge going forward? Is there any checklist?
Well, he has things that he has to learn. I understand that, and the next life or the next ascension or whatever it is, the next time we're all together. I mean, I would say that he would remember it, you know,
now,
and go on from there.
Okay, so I have a couple more questions that's going to get up to the top of the hour, so I'm going to break it off definitely at 9 o'clock Arizona time, so we still have a few minutes here. But so now, so right now you're living the life that you're living, but you believe that this is your last and you're going to move forward after this. Now your husband is going to come back here to to fix up the lessons that he's got to relearn. Now, when you're in that afterlife, when you guys swap positions and you're in the afterlife, and he's here back with us, amongst us, and you have the ability to target him and communicate with him again, will you guide him through some of the mistakes he's made to correct them, to help him move to the next realm so that he has better success living amongst us? Can you help correct some of his errors, or you're not able to, or you prohibited to?
I don't think I can. I can point out, and I can agree, but it's not up to me. He has to realize that's what he has to do.
Wow.
Now whatever lessons I've learned through my past lives, and whatever lessons I might need to learn or have to go through again after I go from here, that's mine. You know, in other words, I can't. You don't share. You know, it's personal. You know.
Wow.
It's hard to explain.
No, you're doing a pretty good job explaining it. I think you're doing pretty well here. Wow. So now, for instance, do you have these set times and these set appointments with your son, which he no longer can communicate because he's moved on? But now your husband, who's there in the afterlife, and that you can communicate, you have still set times with him. You cannot impulsively communicate with him. And how do you set that up?
Well, I set it up now because he surprised me one time and it freaked me out. So I told him, I said, please, just let me know you're gonna be there, okay? So, you know, I kind of had to set, I wouldn't say rules, but please, you know, not, you know, let's do this at home, or or when I visit you or you visit me, things like that, you know, not anywhere else, you know. In other words, if I'm driving my car to go to work, I don't want him to say, hey, I'm here, because I can have a car accident,
Right,
you know?
right.
Things like that,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow. When this first started happening, were you very young when this astral projecting was part of your life, or did it happen upon accident? Did you have the first one and then you were scared out of your mind and then decided that you didn't want to do this again? Did you have any control over it, where you could stop it, or you had a lack of control and it just happens without your ability to control it at all?
When I first realized, I was very young when I was doing this, and I didn't realize what it was.
Uh-huh.
And at that time, it was being forced. You know, I was, you know, like going to bed, and all of a sudden I'm not there. You know, I'm somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't realize what it was, and then I learned through classes and people and things like that. And, you know, so I learned how to control it, and what, you know, if I want to go somewhere, I want to go somewhere. If I don't, you know, I do that. I do that too. And like I said, I can either observe or participate. So.
So now, so at this young age, obviously, the first time you experience this, you're probably scared out of your mind, I would assume, right? You're just not used to it. It's something that you've never heard about. It was something that really freaked you out, I'm sure, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, when, you know, I didn't, those days I never realized the silver cord. So, I mean, now I know about it, but those days I never did, you know. And it's kind of freaky when you're traveling and you come back and you see yourself in the bed sleeping, and you're going, yeah, but I'm up here. What's the issue, you know? So there's, you know, could be upsetting.
Now, who was the first time it happened, if you remember, and you may not remember, but who was either the first person that you astral projected to communicate with, or was it just a location you went?
It was a location, and I didn't. It turned out to be a past life, which I researched later on, but I didn't. But I knew I wasn't. You know, I wasn't where I was. You know, in the present. You know.
Mm-hmm. Now, could you engage with yourself in that past life, and you could see you in the existence of that past life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So now could you influence your past life's life, or you said you can be involved, or you can be a spectator. So obviously everyone says, well, it's a past life, so you don't have to worry about breaking the timeline of your current life. Now, you can't visit yourself in your current life, because then you'd be influencing things that happened in your past life, in your past years of your current life, which might make a difference in you waking up in the morning. So I would imagine you can visit your previous lives because they've died, but you can't visit your current life 10 years earlier than you are now. Is that correct?
Well, I was given a picture, kind of like, I don't know if you know about it, Akashic Records. But another show, but or another topic. But I was shown everything that would happen, and sure enough, everything has gone the way like dominoes. You know, like dominoes fall. You know.
Right.
So I so at some point I realized it's happening, and I go, oh wow, okay, because this happened, now that's going to happen. Okay, and then that's going to happen. And, you know, so it wasn't, I was kind of prepared for it, but I wasn't. It just kind of amazed me that it could go that way.
But, but are you able to manipulate it so it goes a different way? I'm assuming you're talking about yourself some years earlier in your current life, correct? You are, right?
Right.
So now certain things occurred in your life. You go to sleep, and in your mind you have memories of things that you lived for the past years of your life. So, for instance, I might remember me going to college at some point and something happened, and then I'm visiting my life, and I'm able to communicate with that life of me in the prior portions of my life where I can manipulate it and change it so that when I wake up in the morning, things that I'm waking up to are different than when I went to sleep. You've broken the timeline and you've changed things. Or do you make things change in that earlier part of your life, and when you come back, you're still where you were before you communicated with the prior part of your life, and that's just a different alternate reality that you've then taken that other part of your life into. So when you wake up in the morning, is there any fear of contaminating the timeline?
No, because for me, and only me, it's been that way. I can't change it.
Right.
It's kind of like fate, you know.
Huh.
And if I don't like something that I know that's going to happen, and I try to change it or do things so it won't happen or something, it just makes it worse because it doesn't change.
Right. Wow. Well, fascinating topic tonight. I do want to conclude the show tonight because it's 5 minutes before the hour, and I've got to do things like take a shower and stuff like that and play with Willie for a little bit. So let me call the show to a conclusion tonight, but I got to thank Sparky for calling in and Iris Ariana. It was some interesting topics tonight. It started off differently, and it ended up being the paranormal show, which I do miss periodically. So thanks for bringing my reminiscence back to my earlier days of the Dave Darren Show. I appreciate it.
No problem, Dave. You have a good night.
Hey, you too.
And
Thanks very
say
much.
hello to your wife and your puppy.
Okay, I'll do that. Have a great night, okay?
Bye.
Okay. Okay, guys, so that's it for tonight. Let me play my closer song. Sorry I missed Terry's call this evening, but we'll get Terry on the next show. So I'm going to do my closer, and I will say goodnight to you guys. And stay safe, stay healthy, and stay away from each other, okay? Cheers, guys. I'll see you again.